All right, so here's our dill pickle loaf, and we're about to add some inclusions. We have some Asiago cheese, dill flowers, and diced dill pickles. Those were gifted to me by my friend Les, his homemade pickles. Now, I wet the counter to keep my dough from sticking. And instead of our second set of stretch and folds, I'm actually laminating the dough. So that's another method of building dough strength in the middle of your bulk ferment. And I like to use it as a way to add inclusions. It helps me get them more evenly throughout. So I'm adding the dill pickles here first, and now the Asiago cheese. You could add Havarti if you preferred. And next, the dill flowers. And then I like to press the inclusions into the dough a little bit, helps them stick when I fold it. And then I fold the left side in and the right side in and roll it up. As we do the rest of our stretch and folds, it'll become a more even mix. All right, so we're ready for our next set of stretch and folds. So we've done one set of stretch and folds, and then we laminated the dough and added our inclusions. Here's what it's looking like right now. So it's really pretty. And we're gonna do our next set of stretch and folds. So I'm gonna go ahead and loosen it around the edges, and we've already got our dill and dill pickles in there. Look, there's a little flower peeking out there, a few of them. And so we're gonna pull it up. Look, I love how this dough is handling. It's handling beautifully. Maybe you should put pickle juice in everything. Not a good idea. Look at that. Look at that. Would you? Look how pretty it is. This is going to be interesting. So this loaf was inspired by my son's fiance, Bailey. She wanted a dill pickle loaf. And then I was gifted all that good stuff. Look at that, my inclusions are going everywhere. Well, hopefully they'll get a little more tucked in. I'm gonna take the ones that kind of loosely fell in the bowl and kind of just shove them into the dough. So, yeah, I'm so excited to see what this looks like. Or tastes like, I should say. I'm super excited to see what this tastes like. Look at how pretty that is. All right, so time got away from me a little bit, and so it's been a while since our last set of stretch and folds. Here's what our dough looks like now. You can see that it's really enlarging already. So we're gonna just go ahead and do our last set of stretch and folds. And again, I'm gonna get my hands a little wet here first, and we're gonna loosen the edge. Oh my gosh, this is smelling so good. The smell of the dill is just fantastic. Look at how pretty it is. I'm really liking those flowers in there. I didn't know they were edible, but and that's supposedly, the flowers have a lot more flavor than the pickles themselves, or the dill plant itself. And then the seeds have the most flavor. So should be interesting. So here's what it looks like. And then normally at this point, I would test the temperature of my dough to look for percentage rise. So we're at 75 degrees. So we'll target our percentage rise based on that. And I'm gonna transfer it to this container. Now, here's the trick. It's from when you first mix the dough. Okay, well, I don't like to put it in the straight-sided container then when I'm gonna do stretch and folds. I can tell you that, yes, I'm gonna have a little more dough volume from all my inclusions. Normally my dough is at about 1 quart, so that would be down here after I first mix it. You don't get much bulk ferment in the first 3 hours or so, so yeah, there's not a lot to worry about, but since time got away from me, it's gonna be more than that. So I'm just gonna target my percent rise based on that. on the knowledge that I normally have, roughly a quart. I don't want to go clear up to the 2-quart line. That much I know. At 75 degrees, I'm going to go for about a 50% rise. And it's going to be pretty much right at the seam here of this. So we'll see how it goes. And then the other thing that we're going to do today, since I didn't get to do my normal of getting it in here sooner, we'll also look for how much bubbles we have, for a domed top, for airiness, and some of the other signs. All right, so it's my lunch break at work, and sometimes that's just when things have to happen. So look at that. Now, it was a real rough estimate, right? So I'll show you this side with the, so it was a real rough estimate here, roughly wanting to go to about this bend because we were at 74 degrees. Thanks to Tom at the Sourdough Journey for all his great scientific research, but the practical application is life happens. So it's never quite perfect, but this at least gives us a rough idea so we don't overproof things. So we're going to go ahead and pre-shape this, and then we'll let it rest about 15 minutes and shape it and put it into our banneton.
Okay, so I wet the surface before we do our dough dump. And then we're going to just stretch it out a little bit. Notice we're not going as thin as when we did our lamination step to add the inclusions. And then I fold it up from the bottom, in on both sides, down from the top. And now I'm just tightening the surface tension a little as we pre-shape the dough. Once I've pre-shaped the dough, I always cover it with a little dome so my cats stay out of it.
Callie, that's enough, lady. My dog's going crazy there. So this is interesting, these little craters that are... It's the dill pickles have certainly made a interesting texture to this dough. It'd be really sticky if my hands weren't wet, but I'm kind of feeling like the water's working better than the flour would be. So now I'm gonna just do this, and then we're gonna roll it. I usually like to laminate in the mixture and then have a more homogeneous mix, but everything's spilling out this way. So this might not be the best way to make a dill pickle loaf, but it's the way we're making it for the first time. I've seen things online, people doing it both ways. This is just really exploding. I think encapsulating them would be the better answer. So I'm going to just throw this mess in here. And it is what it is. I think it's going to taste wonderful and maybe look terrible, but who cares? It's how it tastes that's the thing. All right, so there we have it. And then I'm going to just dust a little Thai rice flour on that and cover it and stick it in the fridge.
A light dusting with the Thai rice flour prevents it from sticking to the plastic when we stick it in the fridge. And here's how it turned out.